Hotline Miami is an interesting game. It sort of feels like everything that can be said about it doesn't even need to be said. This game speaks for itself, all while having barely any dialogue. It's this bold, punk rock, stylish murder simulator, and through its aesthetics, gameplay, and story, it paints a very clear image of a man drowning in a sea of filth. Someone who's lost the ability to empathize or rationalize in a violent, disgusting, and uncaring world. But there's something deeper going on in this game that I think is worth making a video about. It all starts with what are, for me, the coolest moments in the game. The moments when a mission ends, the music suddenly calms down to just a droning ambience as you walk past the gruesome scene you've made back to your car. It's this really sobering moment that caps off the intensity of all that led up to it, and it's incredibly effective every time. What's especially interesting about these moments, for me, is how jarring this sudden snap back to reality is. Every one of these bodies has a story that you wrote. Every wall, corridor, and doorway helped you write that story, but, well, as I'm walking back through it all, I swear I don't remember any of it. I drilled all of these rooms into my head and made a point of memorizing where all of these enemies were so that I could take them down, but walking through the same rooms at the end of a mission, it's like it's my first time seeing any of this. It feels like I didn't kill these people. It feels like I just showed up to someone's house only to find that everyone's been killed, when in fact I'm the one who did all of this. It's like I repressed the memories or something. 30 seconds ago, the locations of each of these guards were incredibly important to me, and now I legitimately don't know what I'm going to see when I turn the next corner. I get lost on my way back to the car, even after drilling the layout of the building so firmly into my head. The little flashes of memories I do have are incredibly narrow and miss a whole lot of what just happened. I don't remember the screen flashing when I killed someone, I don't remember the crazy visuals in the background, I don't remember what the music sounded like or the gunshots or which guards gave me trouble, or what floor of the building I'm on, or what this chapter was called, or why I was even ordered to come here to begin with. It really does feel like I just sat down to play this game. So, the duality of Hotline Miami. It makes me feel like two separate people are playing the game, the killer and myself, the observer. How does it pull this off? Well, it's all in the presentation. This is all the immediately obvious stuff, the stuff that anyone can pick up on just by playing the game. The music switches from its default subdued synthwave mode to this intensely rhythmic outrun music. You switch to a mode of play where time matters and you want to do things as quickly as possible. Loud, visceral sound effects fill your ears in tandem with the bright, flashy showers of neon red blood and the muzzle flashes, contrasting the darker colors of the rest of the game. That sudden shift in pretty much everything that the game is what sets you up to feel like a different person when you're in combat. But the game also manages to make you dissociate from that violence, which is very important to its themes, as we'll get into in a minute. It pulls off that particular trick just by the nature of its gameplay. To start off, you die over and over in this game, especially on your first playthrough. The fact that death doesn't cause the music to skip or rewind sort of primes you to treat death as just another step towards beating the level. The steady rhythm of the music prompts you to not really think about your death at all, and moreover, the music serves as a sort of blanket to suppress your emotions. I rarely feel anything when I die in this game, because as soon as I finish the first level, the game had taught me that it doesn't really matter if I die. Anytime you make a mistake in Hotline Miami, you stop feeling its repercussions in no more than a second. The music serves the same function as the steady hum of a car engine. You're making dozens of small decisions every minute that you're driving, just as you are when you play this game, but I'm sure we've all had those moments where we look up and have no memory of the last 10 minutes or so of driving. We don't remember what song was playing, or what cars were getting on our nerves, or which lights were red or green. Instinct took over, and the conscious side of our brain just checked out for a minute. Rather than watching for turn signals and thoughtlessly mapping out the cars that surround yours, in Hotline Miami, instinct takes the form of you sort of ignoring everything in the game that isn't relevant to your success and survival. You sort of tune out the music and the visuals and just focus on the purely Spartan details of the gameplay, where the weapons are, where the enemies are, and where the walls or doors are. When I get this takedown animation instead of this one, I'm not thinking about what my character is actually doing, I'm just thinking, alright, I'm going to be stuck here for 1.5 seconds instead of 0.5 seconds. The necessity of precision that comes with dying in one hit forces you to turn off every part of your brain but, well, the gamer side. Like driving a car and forgetting how you got there, this is what we call flow state, when your actions come naturally and as far as you can tell, you stop thinking. I've talked before about how flow state can be used to put you in the shoes of a protagonist. Mirror's Edge, for instance, uses flow state to make skilled players feel like they really are the parkour legend that the story says they are. It's a sort of hypnosis that comes from a combination of music, visuals, and a decent understanding of the game's mechanics. Well, in the case of Hotline Miami, hypnosis is really the perfect word for it. The purpose of Hotline Miami's flow state isn't to make us feel like some incredibly skilled killer, as it is in a game like Doom Eternal. It isn't trying to make us feel like a perfect assassin who's planned everything out like in Metal Gear Solid 2. It isn't even trying to make us feel like a crazed psychopath. No, instead, Hotline Miami's flow state exists to make us go through exactly what the protagonist is going through. He's a man who suddenly and sporadically loses his ability to feel. The protagonist, who we might as well start calling Jacket, randomly finds himself in these fugue states where he knows no fear, no regret, no guilt, no empathy. He probably doesn't even know what his name is or what building he's in. All he knows is that there's a baseball bat on the ground and that the man he just punched in the face is going to get up any moment now. He doesn't care if it's a mobster, a civilian, a police officer, a homeless man. It doesn't matter because, for all intents and purposes, he's lost control of himself. This image of a man who's lost all powers of empathy and completely dissociated from both himself and the rest of the human race would already be enough to make Hotline Miami the incredibly memorable classic that we know it as today, but the game goes a bit deeper. So just for some literal analysis real quick, from the start of the game, Jacket is in a coma, having flashbacks to the last month or two of his life, remembering all of the violence he committed. Because we're seeing these events not exactly as they were, but as Jacket remembers them, we've got a bit of an unreliable narrator thing going on, and so the way that Jacket remembers the world can help point us to what exactly drove him to being crazy enough to shoot up a police HQ. So what do we know about Jacket's life before the start of the game? Well, we know that his girlfriend recently left him, and he's been stuck at home in a depressed state because of that, leading him to having a pretty dirty apartment. I, unfortunately, can speak from experience when I say that this is a pretty major sign of antisocial behavior, like you've stopped caring about how you are relative to the other people around you. Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver, a film that this game clearly took a lot of inspiration from, says that he just wants to be a normal person like everyone else. But what Jacket is going through is a little different. As far as we know, he doesn't have PTSD from the start of the game like Travis had. Instead, he has an absolute lack of concern for other people. Then, during the non-combative parts of the game, every time we talk to another person, their faces are shown with these ugly, creepy, and just generally off-putting sprites. There's one guy who isn't so creepy, however. Considering this guy shows up in so many of Jacket's coma dreams and is always being nice to him, I think it's fair to assume that this guy was Jacket's only friend. Of course, everyone else is a complete jerk to him and has those weird, creepy sprites for their faces. Now, I'm probably reading into things a bit too much here, but for me, faces have always been about empathy. When you see someone who's hurt, an empathetic person tends to create a less dramatic mirror of their pained expression. They wince from the pain, you cringe from the empathy. It's called the chameleon effect, and it's an important part of healthy social behavior. These ugly faces, if that's how Jacket remembers seeing them, would make that behavior a lot harder to pull off. If you see somebody as being this creepy looking and scary, of course you aren't going to empathize with them. This antisocial, anti-empathetic angle also ties in with what is probably the most iconic imagery of the game, the masks. The masks, of course, create a barrier between Jacket and the rest of the world, helping him to block out his humanity during his dissociative episodes. Not only do they help him dissociate from the people he's hurting, but they also help him dissociate from himself. Why do you think during the conversation scenes he's talking to people that are wearing the exact same masks he used to kill people? He's projecting his actions onto these fictional characters he's created, Richard, Ramus, Don Juan, and all of the other masks he wears over the course of the game. This brings us to the last point of discussion, where Jacket got his masks. 50 Blessings, the group that's been calling Jacket and coercing him into all of this violence. Basically, 50 Blessings is an American nationalist group that's trying to destabilize budding relations between America and Russia, and the first step of their plan was to take down Miami's Russian mafia. They did so by finding weak and vulnerable people like Jacket after his girlfriend left and convincing them to join up, signing a waiver which states that they're willing to die for their country. Then, once they sign up, as far as 50 Blessings is concerned, they're free of any moral guilt when they start threatening their own members into going on these suicidal killing sprees targeting the mafia. Essentially, whether it's a lack of empathy for Russia or a lack of empathy for its own members, 50 Blessings is a group that is founded on and runs on a lack of empathy. And as the two members who've been sending the phone calls to Jacket and Biker say in the alternate ending, it's sweeping the nation. Something about this world is making it all too easy for people to dissociate from those around them, and so this American nationalism is sharply on the rise. I'm not going to get into the political factors of the late 80s that might have led to this, but 50 Blessings and a lack of empathy for the world is sweeping the nation in this game. Their emblem, this little circle with 3 lines going through it, can be found all over the place, a mute reminder that Jacket is constantly seeing, constantly reminding him that he agreed to completely sever himself from his already dwindling sense of empathy. Hotline Miami is ultimately about what happens when people, for one reason or another, ditch their empathy. Suddenly, people find themselves feeling empty and their lives meaningless. They have no problem taking advantage of other empty people to achieve their goals. They tend to double down on their self-destructive behaviors. They dissociate from their feelings and start to operate on pure instinct. Fittingly enough, when you lose empathy, you put on a mask and become an animal. Before I close out this week's video and get to revisiting Post-Void, I'd like to just apologize for the recent lapses in just content at all. My upload schedule has been very sporadic, and I've just been continuing to push the limits of that whole videos every Friday thing on my channel banner. Real life has just been absolutely insane, and I have had barely any time to do anything, especially work on, these videos, which take a lot of time, even something smaller scale like this. However, with that out of the way, I'd also like to verbally thank my patrons who have supported me throughout it all, especially those who have been donating $10 or more monthly, such as Ada Avery, Almost Dead Again, Anatoly Volnov, Andrew Melnick, Antoine Dequette, Benny, Big Time Jim, Bobby Blitz, CJ Keene, Chompy Uwu, Christopher Pinar, Colin Gajic, Cosmo Borski, Darius Fazier, David Kaiser, Dennis Vashakamer, Dominic Johan, Duncan Bristow, Fralum, Giles Backers, iDubbbz, IJK, Jack Eisenberg, Jano, Kale Graybill, Crit, Laffy, Mello, Mixer Rules, Neurofilter, PJ, Raptor, Ryan Webster, Robert, Scotty from Marketing, CeeLo, Tanman, Vivian Cox, What's Razzie, William T, Keen Vo, Yemen Shi, Zoe Nish, Zyrobly, Sylvia, Kenneth Enfinger, Jake Taryn, and Roxfan. That's pretty much all I have to say, so thanks for watching, everybody. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that I've actually started live streaming recently. It's, just casual, playing through games and sort of giving my own commentated, sort of quote-unquote leadheady thoughts as I play through them, or just, more fun stuff like TF2 where we're just having a good time. So with that is pretty much all I have to say, so have a great week.